Hello everybody, it's KaloaGames here today, and today we're building a Pagoda Cafe. This is actually a build that I built. When did I build this? I built it May. Yeah, many months ago. For the Ninister monthly challenge, which was, I think it was gardens and stuff like that. Yeah. It took me a long time to finish the build, so I actually finished it like around like the same day the contest was gonna be over. It was the gazebo garden contest. It was ending on the 31st of May, and I finished it, I think, on the 31st, or... Oh yeah, on the 31st, but the upload had to be by the 30th. So... Yeah, I'm not fast building gardens. Usually, like, building and interiors I can build way faster, but then you get me building gardens and it takes me a long while to figure out what I'm doing, which you will see on this video. So yeah, as you can see, we're getting the structure down. I actually got an image as... Actually, I looked up several images as reference just on Google. I also investigated a bit on pagodas and how the gardens are usually structured and the meaning of some of the components. Of course, this just wasn't gonna be able to be like a perfect pagoda in terms of representation, but I decided it would be very cool to have actually a Japanese garden in San Myshuno. I feel like San Myshuno has a lot of public spaces but doesn't really have cool parks. It has like the park that's like way out of the city, but yeah, I actually like the idea of having parks in the city. That's why I also built the youth community center, which is kind of like a park in the arts quarter, and now I'm building this in the fashion district, which, looking into the districts and the styles of each district, this is like the more Japanese inspired one. If you look, I don't think you can see it in this time lapse really, maybe in the cinematics, but if you look at the base of the building where this plot is located, it actually has some Japanese gardens, so I found that very, very interesting. And yeah, so that's why I decided to make it here. Also because I thought it would just look so cool, like the pagoda towering over all the other very boring looking buildings, and just like bringing a little bit of contrast and making San Myshuno a little bit different than what we're used to. I decided to go with this color scheme, like the very rich red tones for the wood and the black trims and accents, and with the white walls, since it's like a very Japanese color scheme, I feel. And the red, I usually don't really use the redwoods in the game a lot because I find them kind of difficult to work into other builds, because I do like to use more color usually. But this building, having such a defined color scheme, gave me a chance to play with a lot of furniture I usually don't use. So that was a very interesting challenge. I decided to make this a cafe too, because I thought about just making it a park but I felt like it wouldn't really work that much, like just as a park, because, well, at least in my gameplay, I don't usually go to normal parks, since I don't feel like they have such a purpose apart from getting my Sims married, but I don't usually get my Sims married. I'm not such a wedding planner in Sims. So that's why I made it a cafe. Also taking a little bit of inspiration from the traditional Japanese the tea ceremony and how important tea is in the culture. So of course it's technically a cafeteria, but it has a lot of tea bags inside in the decor. And in the second floor, I actually do like a little tea ceremony kinda area. I didn't really know what to do with the other floors at the beginning, because you're probably aware that in Sims you can add a lot of seating, but the Sims won't actually use all the seating you give them. So I decided to not have that many tables downstairs and have more interesting rooms upstairs. Yeah, here I'm working on the exterior because the base was going really well, but it lacked detail. If you look at Japanese pagodas, they are so detailed and so beautiful, and I wanted to bring that here, so I used a few tricks, like placing, here you can see I'm placing fences, so I can place what are those called? the trims that hang from the roof that are very ornate. I always forget what they're called. Trellises, is it? But yeah, those trellises work beautifully because they also have the little hanging shape in the corners. And in those shapes, I actually added lanterns later on. And I think it came out pretty nice. It's pretty cool. I'm very happy with how the shape turned overall. I think there's not a lot I would have done differently, like starting over. Maybe just, I don't know, putting it more towards the center, or more towards the exactly the border of the lot, because for working the garden, and it was the garden, like, from now on, like 80% of what you're gonna see is landscaping and me trying to understand how to do gardens. This clearly wasn't working. I still tried to make it work because I was like, I can't use terrain paints here because this is not actual grass, it's just floor tiles. So I couldn't make organic looking pathways with terrain paint. So I tried to do the diagonal gravel floor thing. It didn't work out. It looked weird. It didn't work at all with what I was going for. Eventually I figured it out, and I remember that Get to Work has those amazing rugs that look like paved stones. So at the end we go for that. Here I'm adding, well, you saw I added a bamboo forest, and here I'm adding a Japanese sand garden. At the end I end up moving them around a little bit because the layout just was a little awkward. And here I'm choosing which tree to keep. You see, that's when I discovered the rugs, and you can make them bigger or smaller. And maybe it's not ideal because they're just circles and they are not stone looking like they would be in an actual Japanese garden. But it's as good as it could get in this situation, I believe. But yeah, it took a lot of figuring it out. I added a small tree. I added a normal sized tree and then I made it small. That would be the better way to say it. To make it look kind of like a bamboo. No, not bamboo. Okay, my words are all over the place today. What are those called? Bonsai. To make it look like a bonsai. I know this word. Here you can see where I flipped stuff around. Like from the last cut to here. I had a talk with my brother. If you haven't seen my videos before, he really loves gardening and plants and knows a lot about different styles of gardens. So I basically called him in, showed him how everything was going, and was like, help. And he suggested different things. I added a little bench, like a contemplation area in the bamboo forest, and moved it to the other corner, which it makes just much more sense. At the end I add some lanterns in between the bamboo forests. I also cut a lot of just placing bamboo because as you can see, I try to make it not look all the same by making some bigger, some smaller, and just having some variation there so it doesn't look like just the same plant over and over and over again. And yeah, I think the bamboo forest is one of my favorite corners, and it's very cute for pictures with your Sims. Yeah, in general, this is a very cool lot to take pictures of your Sims in. Here you can see I just deleted my first attempt to make something here. At the very beginning I was like, maybe I can do something like some Starbucks have the upstairs area with just comfy cushions and chairs and like more seating, but like more comfy seating. And it didn't work out. The layout of this room didn't work with that. But then I tried making, like I said earlier in the video, like more of a tea room and a room for the tea ceremony. And that worked out pretty good. Even though there is no appropriate table for this or appropriate chairs. At first I just downsized discussions. It wasn't terrible. The idea was there, but it wasn't great. At the end I ended up switching those cushions up for the meditation. What are they called? Like the meditation stools, And they worked way better. They are also functional, so if you take your Sims to this plot, they can actually use them, which is nice. Here I was trying to find more decorations because the main part of the room was done, but it needed more, I added those bamboos as kind of privacy screens. I moved the table to be more in the center. I love those rugs from Spa Day, but they're such a pain to place when you're trying to make a big area with them. But yeah, I wanted to decorate this room more, but you gotta remember, this is not supposed to be like super decorated, because that's not the point here. The point here is the tea. So yeah, I think it ends up being pretty similar to what this is. I added some columns for some architectural interest, which I think help a lot. Bring, like, instead of just like hiding the stairs and pretending like they're not there, like just making them part of the room and not having them like just there. Also giving the room like more, I don't know, making it feel more grand. And up at the very top level, well, at the very top accessible level, I added like a bonsai working station. Basically, my idea here is you can have a bonsai club with your Sims. And I added a bonsai with the trick of adding that's a tree from Granite Falls, I think. And it looks very bonsai-like when you scale it down. And as you can see, the level above is just open because it was just too small to actually fit stairs to get there in a way that made sense and without taking too much space from the room below. So I added more columns, and I think it worked out very well, giving it more height, and those two rooms look very cool in gameplay. It's difficult to show when building, but yeah. And here in this little corner, I make like a more modern part of the garden. Like, Japan has these two contrasts of very, very modern and very, very traditional, and I think that's very cool, so I wanted to add a little bit of that. And yeah, now it's just finishing up details, changing up the stools, trying to figure out what to place in this area, which was difficult because I wanted to add a water feature, but I talked about it with my brother, and he explained to me that in Japanese gardens, they don't really have flowing water, they have calm water. But there isn't anything like that in The Sims, so I just end up going with like some foliage, and I think it looks pretty cool. I also at some point I added a bunch of lights, but you didn't see all of that. And I'm gonna leave you to enjoy the cinematics in peace. If you like this video, please like it. Any comments, leave them below and let me know what you liked, what you didn't like, and any suggestions for what I could do in the future. Thanks for watching.